Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? We pretty much thought this was going to happen. The news is out. John Mara has announced, I'll read it verbatim. Now that our season is over, we felt it necessary to make this statement. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented and their vision for our team. We look forward to the future and achieving the results we all desire. Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen are both back. They are back at least for this year. And then we're also hearing in the same vein, in John Mara's interview and some other reports that have come out, that this is essentially a win now year for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. After coming off of a season where they have just gone 3-14, before that they went 6-11. After coming off of these two seasons, it's playoffs or bust. It's playoffs or bust with the team that just won 3 games this year. And people wonder why we are where we are. They wonder why we are where we are because there is never a strategy. There's never a plan that is actually set in place and followed. Where are we going? Where are we going? What is the plan that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll have? Because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the progression. Let's look at Joe Schoen's draft picks. So before I get into their resumes, there were also some reports that came out that said that the Giants, John Mara specifically, kind of put some feelers out for head coaches. As you see, Mike Vrabel is probably going to be either the coach of the Jets or the coach of the Patriots. So he's probably off the board. Kyle Shanahan is probably not going to be traded to the Giants. A lot of these guys are just not going to be interested in the Giants. Ben Johnson, I highly doubt he wants to come here and work with Joe Schoen. It makes you think, was Mara really wedded to Joe Schoen, or did he just think he was the best GM option for this particular year? Because if people wanted to come here and possibly work with a new general manager and he decided to keep Joe Schoen over that, that's malpractice. And that's a great segue into this. Let's look straight at it. 2022 NFL draft. Joe Schoen gets here. This is his first off season, first draft. Kayvon Thibodeau, okay guy. He's an okay player, good player sometimes, but more often than not, he's an okay player. You can give him above average. Evan Neal has been a bust. He's been a bust. We'll see if he can turn the corner. Wan'Dale Robinson, he had 10 catches yesterday for 43 yards. He is consistently giving you running back production while catching the ball. He's averaging 4 yards a catch, 5 yards a catch. That has been very frustrating. Josh Azudu, a complete bust. This is a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick, third round pick. High 3rd round pick there. Cordell Flott, he's been solid. You get him in the 3rd round. Maybe you expect a little bit more, but he's probably not going to be here. So I wouldn't really say that was a success either. Bellinger has been pretty good, but Brian Daboll on his side doesn't play Bellinger, doesn't target him. Basically, he's kind of phased him out of the offense. Dane Belton, he's not really playable as a safety. He gets interceptions, but other than that, he can't cover. Not a consistent tackler. Micah McFadden, best pick of this draft probably. Best pick of the draft. He's probably your best pick in this draft now that I look at it. He's probably the best player in the 5th round. So solid pick right there. DJ Davidson, 5th round pick, depth defensive tackle. That's solid. Marcus McKeithen is out of the league. Darian Beavers is no longer on this team. 2023 draft, Deonte Banks. This is looking horrible. JMS, average to below average center in the league. Jalen Hyatt, he didn't even get 100 yards this year. As a receiver, he didn't even get 100 yards. You can blame that on coaching. You can blame that on him. But at the end of the day, if he was better than he was, he would have lucked his way into 200 yards, 250 yards this year. Eric Gray, a throwaway pick. He's going nowhere fast on this team. Trey Hawkins, 6th round pick. Flashed as a start, but now it looks like he's not going to be doing much either. I think he ended up getting hurt. Jordan Riley, as a 7th round pick. I think that's solid. At least we're getting depth reps out of him. So we got a solid player there in Jordan Riley. We got JMS, I guess, a solid player. So you got 2 solid players out of the 2023 draft. You look back at 2022, you got Kayvon, who's a solid player. Wan'Dale, I guess, is a solid player. but for where he was taken, I wouldn't say he was a second round pick worthy player. So for his latest draft, this was probably his best draft by far. He got Malik Neighbors, a Pro Bowler. He's got Tyler Nubin, who I don't think is going to be that good of a player. So kind of a wasted second round pick. That's just my opinion. Maybe he comes out and develops next year, but I don't see him as a good player going forward. Andrew Phillips, good player. Good player. Theo Johnson looks like he's going to be a good player. And then Tyrone Tracy, 1,000 yards from scrimmage this year. Now, the problem here is Darius Moisau is the 6th round pick. Basically threw away that pick. Just threw it away. So before I jump to the free agency signings and the trades, I hope you all realize that we decided not to draft one quarterback. You didn't hear one quarterback's name get called. You didn't hear one quarterback's name get called in any of these drafts. We didn't draft a quarterback in the 4th round, the 5th round, the 6th round, the 7th round. No quarterbacks were taken this entire time. And for me, that's very problematic. We got a guy who's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer in Daboll, and we don't give him any young quarterbacks to develop, even as a backup. You know, you go with Tommy DeVito, an undrafted free agent, and say that's your young quarterback you're developing. Come on, people. So no quarterbacks taken. Free agency signings. Let's get the first one out of the way. Daniel Jones is $40 million a year. That was a Joe Schoen signing. He didn't draft Daniel Jones, but he paid him. So $40 million a year, Daniel Jones. Brian Burns is making over $30 million a year or close to it. He brought back Andrew Thomas, brought back Dexter Lawrence. So those were good deals. I think he got good numbers on those deals. Brought in Bobby Okereke, Illuminor, Greg Van Roten, I think looked really good this year. John Runyon looked solid this year. So in free agency, I think he's done solid. Traded for Darren Waller, who didn't look that good for us, but also was definitely worth trading Kadarius Toney for. I mean, the 3rd round pick for Darren Waller, I have no issue with. So I would say by far free agency has been his strength. Now, Daniel Jones was a big mistake, but I would say other than that, he's mostly made good free agent decisions. The Giants are in good cap health, so he has not messed things up from that perspective, but the drafting is a huge issue. So I was leaning towards Joe Schoen being gone because when you look at his draft picks, most of them have not been successful. Most of the premium picks have not been successful. So if he can have another season like taking Malik Neighbors in the 1st round, then that'd be great. But if he has more seasons like the last one, it's not going to be good. And then for Brian Daboll, I mean, let's see. He gets here first, and he's the big man on campus. We go out and we win that first game against the Titans. He instantly sets the culture. You see him yelling at Daniel Jones on the sideline. And, you know, we think we got our guy. He comes out, and we win a bunch of games at the beginning of that 2022 season, and then we kind of taper off. And then we beat the Colts, a horrible team who we just beat again. But we beat the Colts, and, you know, we're feeling good again. We play against the Vikings, and we win that playoff game, and he wins Coach of the Year. Wins Coach of the Year. We think, you know, for the next 15 years, we got our guy. This guy actually saved Daniel Jones. What happens next after Daniel Jones gets paid is complete disaster. He gets paid, he plays horribly, he gets hurt, and then you go 6-11. And from my perspective, Brian Daboll went 6-11 when he should have probably went 2-15. Because looking at that roster, how many people got injured, having no quarterback, working with Tommy DeVito, that roster should not have won 6 games. So I'm thinking he had a bad year. Definitely there were some things I didn't like as far as game management. But at the end of the day, he outperformed what that team was looking like. Now then the key for me here is Wink Martindale. He drives Wink Martindale out. During the season, you see he kind of takes over play calling at times from Mike Kafka mid-game, which shows he doesn't have a good relationship with the coordinators. And, you know, again, he's pretty much almost coming to blows with Wink Martindale, and Wink just says, I'm out of here, I'm taking my guys, and I'm going to Michigan. So all of that stuff happens, and Daboll is just completely ostracized both of his coordinators. We interviewed, I think, 3 or 4 defensive coordinators. We got our last place coordinator, which shows me that people don't want to work with this guy at defensive coordinator. So some things must be true there. So we get our worst choice, our last choice for defensive coordinator. Mike Kafka is basically silenced, and the play calling is taken away from him. after he was the one that called the plays when Daniel Jones made the playoffs. And Daboll is saying, it's all on my back. I'm going to save the day. And the Giants have their worst offensive season under him. So he was the offensive coach. He was supposed to make us competent. And there are a ton of offensive issues. Besides, again, that 140-point game, we have been horrible on offense. Quarterback, unless you want to argue that every single quarterback that has played for him has not been an NFL quarterback, which is partially his fault because he's in the evaluating and everything else. Unless you want to make that argument, he is partially responsible for this. He's responsible for this. So we have not been a productive offense under him. And because of that, I can make an argument that he should have been fired. I can make the argument that he should have been fired. But on the other hand, I saw that he overachieved 2 years ago. He overachieved last year. So maybe if he can step back from the play calling, maybe he's a good head coach. He got a lot of good stuff going on. Another thing, the team is so undisciplined. I don't have any numbers in front of me right now, but we all know every game, illegal man downfield, illegal shift, illegal procedure. All these ticky-tack, small, detail-oriented penalties are going by the wayside. We've heard that this is kind of like a country club where players are happy and it's a player-friendly environment, but it seems like these details are getting lost because we can't get set right. We can't execute the plays in a way that's not breaking the rules, and it happens to us more than anybody else. And it's not always just the refs attacking us. Sometimes it's just our team not being disciplined. So again, that piles on to why I would say I would want Daboll to be gone. But instead, John Mara has decided to bring both of them back. I guess if you're going to keep Schoen, because he seems like he's in love with Schoen. If you want to keep Schoen, you bring back Daboll, because nonetheless, I think that Daboll has done a better job than Schoen has. Besides this year, Daboll has done a better job than Joe Schoen has done. Also, again, they checked around and not many people want to come here. But my question is this, and I'll start to wind things down here. My question is this. If Daboll is back, he's back now, that's confirmed. Is Mike Kafka, who's been completely embarrassed and ostracized, is he staying here? Is he going to get play calling back? Because I think that's the only way you can get him to not basically try to force himself out. And then who's going to be the defensive coordinator? Because no one wanted to work here after a 6-11 season. So who's going to want to work here after a 3-14 season? So they're going to get to take their quarterback. They are going to develop their guy, whether that be in the first couple picks where they take, one of the top two guys, whether it be them taking Jackson Dart in the second round, whether it be them getting somebody in free agency. They're going to have to bring somebody in here that is their quarterback. And that man is going to have to succeed and have us on the borderline of making the playoffs, or else they're going to be gone. Impossible situation. If Jackson Dart comes in here, or we trade for J.J. McCarthy, or whoever gets in here, and it's a young player, and they have to learn Daboll's scheme, and after 1 year they get fired, guess what, guys? We're right back to Groundhog Day. It's going to be another quarterback in his second or third year learning a new system, because his coach just got fired, because his GM just got fired, and who knows if the next GM and the next head coach even likes the quarterback that we have in there. So it is what it is, folks. John Mara has decided to make a decision. I'm at least grateful that he's made a decision not completely based on the fan reaction, and he's actually sticking to his guns with something. Hopefully this goes okay. I'm not a fan of it, but hopefully this ends up being okay.